Welcome to Innovative Strategies with Bill Haase. This is the show all about small business development, financial literacy, you name it. This guy is really becoming fast the business voice of the Chicagoland area. Today we are going to be doing CEO, the loneliest. One is not the loneliest number. CEO is the loneliest number, right?
Yeah, the loneliest position. Yeah.
And Max Lambright, we've got coming back. A few weeks ago, we tried, and that's when they were playing with the interweb. And well, when you have an internet radio station and there's no interweb, that's tough.
It makes it challenging. How do you overcome that challenge?
Yeah,
and get another service.
That's
good luck.
Something, right? Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck. Yeah. A special show today. Max is a friend of mine that I've gotten to know very well over the last few months, and you know, Ken, I have had the distinct privilege and pleasure of meeting so many amazing people recently with our new efforts, but. You know, first I wanted to point out, I hope everybody can come down off of yesterday's 420 to enjoy tomorrow's Earth Day. If you can get back down to Earth by tomorrow, that'd be great. We can enjoy Earth Day. I don't know how to celebrate Earth Day. Maybe you plant a tree, a bush, a flower. Not here in Chicago, though, because it's supposed to be freezing cold, as I've been learning watching my dear cubbies. But yeah, we want to bring Max in here and have a little conversation because he is an 8-time CEO. This man knows how to run a business, how to build it, run it, make it successful, has done so many, many times. And he has a new business now, which has raised my eyebrows because I know I'm going to be having a lot of conversations with Max going forward about being a CEO. And he pointed out to me, because it's the loneliest position to hold. And he has a great point. It's where do you go as the top person? Everybody comes to you for answers to concerns, issues, problems that they have. But where do you go as a CEO? And Max has started a new company in which he's going to provide that opportunity for the small and medium-sized CEO business owners that may otherwise not be able to afford that. And that's one of the issues that we'll talk about. But let's bring him in. Max, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Bill. It's a pleasure, and glad we're actually able to technologically, or whatever the proper term is, make this happen today.
Yeah, well, you know, we had that AI come into play, and now it's corrected everything that none of us could figure out. But so CEO, you say, is the loneliest position.
Well, I'm not the only one that says that.
Every CEO out there says that?
Yeah, well, that's one of my favorite new books, or recent books, is called CEO Excellence. It was written by 4 partners at McKinsey. And of course, you and your listeners will know who McKinsey is, the consulting firm. And they interviewed over 400,000 current or retired global leaders, C-suite executives.
Okay.
They interviewed Mary Barra, who is now the chairman. I mean, well, she's a CEO of General Motors, and her quote, and you know, I don't have it. I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. She said, but the biggest surprise to her when she was promoted to the position of CEO, and prior to that, she was president and general manager of the truck division, which is GM's largest division. She said, the thing that surprised me the most was I have no peers in this position. She wasn't talking about equality. She was talking about having nobody to turn to bounce ideas off, to deal with problems. She said, when I was president of the truck division of GM, I could go to other presidents of other divisions, say, I'm dealing with this. I've got this issue with one of my senior leadership teams. What would you do in this situation? She couldn't do that anymore. So if the CEO of GM feels it's the loneliest job in the world, I don't think I'm far off base when I say it as well.
I'm not going to argue with you at all. And as my experiences are, I'm learning that very same factor. But you know, what about, you know, so she is the CEO of a Fortune 50 company. So you would think they'd have the resources. You know, you have a board of directors. Can you not go to the board of directors?
I have a comment that gets me in trouble all the time, Bill. I say that every member, I have a lot of comments that get me into trouble all the time. I'm going to start with this one right here. We'll start off with one of the big ones right off the bat here. Every board member of every board in the world, no matter what the size of the organization, and every banker and every owner believes deep in their heart of hearts that they can do a better job than the sitting CEO. Every one of them is wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so the vast majority of board members aren't looking for the CEO to come to them for help. They're looking for, to bounce off success stories is what they're looking for. Okay. The reality is that, there are very few resources, believe it or not. And there's another, I'm going to quote some statistics for you here, if you don't mind. This year, Wharton is starting a global executive seminar, year-long seminar called Global Executive Program. They're charging $20,000 tuition. They hired McKinsey to go out and do a survey, and they asked two questions. And this was over 4,400 executives across the world, and these individuals had been in that role for at least 15 years. Were in Fortune 1000 companies or that size. They asked the two questions. One is that how prepared do you feel for your current position? And second, how much support does your current organization give you? 83% of the respondents, over 4,000 respondents, responded that they were unprepared for their current role. 64% of them responded that their current organization did not support them in their current role. Now, these are the largest corporations in the world, and these are executives that have more than 15 years experience at the C-suite level and working for, the companies you would think would just be able to just overwhelm them with support.
Right.
And the numbers were stunning to me. And, Wharton's actually using those statistics in their brochure to sell this program. Now, say, okay, we're not talking about global 1,000 corporations here. We're talking small and medium businesses, which is what I focus on, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But if you transfer that information or, just try to get, drive a parallel from that, the vast majority of small and medium businesses don't have the resources that a large corporation does, and their executives certainly don't have that global experience. Now, I'm going to throw out one more statistic here that I think will blow your mind. What do you think the current average age of a CEO in the United States is right now?
Oh boy,
54.
I'd go, well, I don't know. That's a really tough one, but
Higher or lower?
I'd go higher.
Okay.
Yeah, it is higher. It's 59 years old.
Oh.
That's the
Ding,
average
ding,
age
ding.
age of a CEO in the United States right now. So you think about if those.
I'm not helping that average, by the way.
Neither. Well, I'm way over it. I mean, I've blown the average way out.
Yeah,
But think about the next generation and how they're not prepared for what's going to be a very dramatic transition in the next 10 to 15 years, especially in small and medium businesses, with the wealth transfer from the boomers to however they're going to transfer to their next generation, their children or whatever.
Well, it's only, Max, that's only $69 trillion. So it's not like that's that big a deal.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Right.
Those numbers with a T in it, they're just kind of boring, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. But I like that you focus on the small, medium-sized businesses that typically don't have the resources or can't put what resources they have available to them towards that. And it's unfortunate. But you're building something that is going to provide an opportunity for these small, medium-sized business CEOs that's going to make it more affordable. And am I correct?
Yeah, we are working on that. We've built out a platform. You know, according to the Small Business Administration, there are 650,000 businesses in the United States with 20 to 500 employees. All
Okay.
right. And so Vistage is out there, and I've been a member of Vistage in the past, and Vistage is a wonderful organization. And Vistage says they have 45,000 members that they currently serve on a global basis. Well, if you do the math, 45,000 into 650,000, and then when you add on that next generation, what we call aspiring CEOs, those individuals who are going to be moving into these leadership positions in the next 10 to 15 years and aren't prepared, there's just not a solution or a way to effectively prepare those people, those next generation of leaders today. I mean, there's tons of executive coaches out there, but we're still, the service we can provide together as a group is a drop in the ocean. And to jump on a cheap cliche, we're not trying to boil the ocean. We're just trying to offer an affordable, accessible, and available method for sitting CEOs right now, small and medium businesses, or next generation leaders who want mentoring, coaching, support, and resources that aren't available to them today in most cases. I believe that every CEO needs a coach or a mentor. I believe they need a mentor. I mean, I don't know
I'm coming
why.
to that realization without question. So I'll give you my example, right? I'm building a new business, right? We're technically a two-man operation right now, and we're already going global, as you know, because you are one of our special guest speakers at our event at the end of May at the VC Latinx conference, and we're already much bigger than we had anticipated, at least in a shorter time frame than we had anticipated. So a concern my partner and I would have is with this quick growth, do we have a good solid grip on what we're trying to do, how we're doing it, the processes, procedures we're putting in place, the people we're putting into place. And we can't necessarily know that because, my partner has worked in the corporate world and at high levels. I have not. Yet I feel I have a clear picture, but I also know in the back of my mind, I've never been in this position. So there are things I can't possibly know.
But let's play this side of things. Is when you are sitting in that high back leather chair as the CEO, not you, I'm just saying CEOs.
In my cubicle?
I've been a CEO, so I know. You have all the answers, and I don't want anybody to tell me how to run my business. So, Max, as you're saying, hey, you need a coach, you need a mentor. A lot of the egos that you're dealing with won't be open to that. How do you get around that?
Max, let me just step in real quick just on this because that's a touchy subject, because I've had a number of people tell me one of two things: either what you're trying to do can't be done, or number two, this is how you should be doing it. And oftentimes the people who tell me this is how you should be doing it, then at the end of that conversation, turn around and say, and I'd love to help. I feel I'd be a good fit in your organization. They want a job. But Max, please.
Well, there are a couple of different questions to respond to there, but I'll try. I'll attempt to deal with the ego one first. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are individuals who have been elevated to that role, who believe that they are beyond the need for any assistance and guidance. And I'm not trying to change the spots on tigers. And I know tigers don't have spots. Okay. I'm not trying to, we're not trying to do the impossible.
I love it. Yeah.
We work with individuals who finally come to the realization that the pain is too great, that they're struggling. I guess I'm overwhelming you with statistics here, but depending on which survey or study you believe by, Gartner, other great, organizations, 30 to 70% of new CEOs will not finish their first 18 months successfully.
I was going to bring that up. Yep. I had heard that.
And it's so that those 30% at the top end, or 50%, depending on how you want to do the math, that have just walked in and are just, blowing the doors off the place. Yeah. Okay. They don't need a coach or a mentor. God bless them, come to work with us and we'll help, we'll let you help other CEOs that are struggling. But it's, those individuals who are struggling, and they're struggling in one of four areas, gentlemen. It's crafting that vision. All right. Which, I know Bill and Deb, you've put it together, a vision that is very clear for what you're doing, with your initiative coming up this month. So it's that the vision is there, and you've got the messaging down, really tight and really compelling messaging. The next issue that most organizations deal with, and specifically most new CEOs, is to implement that vision into a process or a plan for sustained, profitable, and scalable organic growth. All right.
Repeatable.
Most CEOs don't come from understanding how to organically grow an organization. They come from operations, come from finance, come from manufacturing, production. They're not growth people. And no CEO was hired to run a small and medium business. A CEO is hired to grow a small and medium business. You have a senior leadership team, even if it's only 2 people. All right. And that's not, the size of an organization we're typically brought in to help. I mean, they've got a production team and a finance team and underneath them. But see, even when you're a solopreneur, you still got to have somebody there to help, put that team into place. You've got to be able to identify the right senior leadership team to bring in. So your owners or your investors or your bankers they don't care how you're running the business. They care how you're growing the business.
Right.
All right. So
yeah, that answers the question I would have of what is the role of a CEO. And I obviously I agree with you, and I'm glad you didn't have the word "but" in there when you were talking about Deb and I. Thank you. But and that's something that needs to be understood first and foremost. You're there to grow a business, not to just manage one. And putting the right people in place. And when I say it's, we're a 2-man operation, that's probably not really a realistic view of what we are, because we're more than that. But we outsource a good portion of the building of our business. Once we build it, we'll have to bring in more, we call contributors, not employees, that will come in and help contribute to the growth of the business and to the repeatable processes for sales and delivery. Well, then Deb and I can free our hands up maybe to be to look more at the growth side of things. But a lot of these new CEOs, and when you're talking small, medium-sized businesses, and you're saying 650,000, that's the backbone of America.
Absolutely.
So it is infinitely important that these folks, have resources available to them and know about the resources, because there's resources out there galore, right, for business owners, right? You said there's many coaches out there, and yeah, I think there are as many coaches out there as there are financial advisors. But many are, you can say it's a dime a dozen, and it's hard to find the good ones. like the ones that can pinpoint your specific needs, they can point out, are you having these issues, these concerns, these problems? Because this is typically what comes up in your situation. And not every coach is out there can do that and provide you with the solutions. But let's talk about the difference between a coach and a mentor.
Okay. It's a great topic. I'm very, I get in trouble for this one too. Coaching.
I'm finding you're easy to find trouble with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm beyond really caring about that. Okay. Coaches ask really great questions, and there is a great need for coaches out there. Mentors have been there and done it, and multiple times had successes and had failures at it. I'm an executive mentor. All right. I've been there. I've done it. I've succeeded. Yeah. I've had some pretty nasty failures, and I'm in a position where I can sit there with one-on-one with a sitting CEO or someone who aspires to be a CEO and say, you really don't want to do that. Let me tell you why. This is what's going to happen. And this is going to be the consequences that are going to come out of that. And I have some credibility because I've been there, I've done that, and I've bought t-shirts for the entire company multiple times. So if you're a sitting CEO, why would you even consider engaging a advisor, a trusted advisor, who hasn't sat on the other side of the desk like you are right now? That's what I call the CEO's chair. It's the other side of the desk, because you see a view of the organization that no one else sees it. Everybody that comes into your office, everybody that calls you, everybody that gets on a Zoom call with you wants something from you. They want time, they want attention, they want resources, they want approval, they want a week off, they want you to get involved in a situation that they can't handle. But everybody that comes in there wants something from you. And the other thing that you'll recognize or relate to is that everybody in the organization hangs on every word you say, every instance of body language or facial expression. And I know I'm using generalizations here, like every and all that, but it really is true here. All right. I mean, there were a couple times I can remember when I didn't do my walk around, because I would always do a walk around. The companies that I ran were big enough or small enough that I could do that. I would do a walk around every day, knew everybody's name, kids, the whole deal, and there were a couple of days when I had to get a board presentation done, or I had some proposal to do or something like that, when I wouldn't do it. And, what always come back, is Max pissed at us? Yeah. I'm not. No, I'm not. It's not even on my radar. But there was no cushion there for not, engaging in that role on a daily basis when I was in the office, when I wasn't traveling, of actually reaching out and I use the word engaging, not just talking, engaging with everybody in the entire facility. So, rambling on here and going probably off the path of what you're looking for, but
I agree with you. And to bring us kind of back on that path, a coach is someone you can choose, right? Mm-hmm. You can interview, you can choose, you can pick out your coach. But a mentor, that's not so easy. It's like okay, I would love for Elon Musk to be my mentor, but that's not going to happen.
Would you? Right? Would you really?
Well, it's a bad example. I give you that.
Okay. All right.
I give you that.
Okay. And thanks for watching, Elon. We appreciate that.
Yeah. I guess we're not friends anymore, Elon, but is there truth to that?
Well, yes, because part of it is the marketing of the professional services in the coaching industries. Everybody calls themselves a coach. And there are not that many mentors out there, to be honest, that communicate themselves or promote themselves, if that's the proper term, as being an executive mentor.
So if I can,
Sure, go ahead.
Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, and I'll use golf as an example.
Mhm.
The unbelievable talent through their entire career had a swing coach, right? So you look at the most successful golfers that on the men's tour that's ever golfed, and they had swing coaches, and you're like, well, why would you do that? You're amazing, right? A Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, a Lisa Leslie in basketball, they have coaches that teach them footwork, that teach them the shot. A mentor is somebody who I think says, this is how you act, right? This is
the mindset.
Yeah, kind of that mindset. But I think as a CEO, a lot of people get there, and Ron Hostry, one of the founders of the station here, always called it CEO, career-ending opportunity, right? Because it is lonely there, and a lot of CEOs don't want to enlist in a Max Lambert, that swing coach or that mentor, because how dare you think that I need that?
Well,
and I think you have to continually lean on people like a Max, a Bill, that can help you stretch a muscle, that can go to Max's point. Ooh, I've been there.
We're putting coaching and mentoring very, very close together there, and to me, a mentor isn't somebody you actually, you might be seeking it, but you're not. It's a relationship that develops, through whatever contact that happens. It's my experience anyway. You remember Scott Rosenzweig? He's been on the show, and I believe he came into my life as a mentor of sorts for a period of time. And that happened just naturally. That was not me seeking out a mentor, or I don't know that he was seeking out to be a mentor to somebody else. It kind of happened. And I haven't had many mentors. I mean, I spent 20 years in train pits. Nobody teaches you anything. They want you to fail. But
right, Danielson didn't know that Mr. Miyagi was going to end up being his mentor.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you understand.
Good point.
And I think I think we're getting hung up on a definition, a personal definition or experience, and in the CEO position, that's what happens a lot. Hey, no. I mean, let me explain to you, because I'm the CEO, that this is what it is. And there used to be a day back in the 60s, 1960s and 70s, and even early 80s, where the CEO picked you out and said, I'm going to get you to my seat.
It still goes on.
Not as much as you think.
I know of it going on at very high levels in the finance world. I think it's, but it's, I think there are many CEOs in major corporations nowadays that I would consider dinosaurs. They're not adjusting to what's going on.
Sure, but even in the midsize that Max is talking about, it's not been my experience to see that.
Yeah, I don't know. Your thoughts, Max?
I would agree with that. One of the things we're doing with the executives chair is that we're making this type of resource and support available and accessible. I do all my work remotely. I don't travel to the factory or the warehouse. I don't need to see another factory. I don't need to see another warehouse. I don't need to meet the CEO's team. I work for the CEO. That's my client. All right. And when we talk about mentoring, I don't have to be on site to be a mentor to that individual, because I've been in the role. And we're all dealing with, basically, I began to talk about the 4 different issues. There's visions, there's organic growth, There's the culture, which is basically surrounding yourself with excellence, putting the right team into place. Because when you're elevated to that role of CEO, you inherit a senior leadership team. They're not your folks, all right? And there's always an issue with some of them, and you've got to deal with it. And then the fourth thing is leadership and dealing with the board or the investors. Those are the four areas that any new CEO is going to potentially have a struggle with. I don't know any CEO, and I mean this, and I've met hundreds of them, if not more, that have elevated into that position that haven't dealt with at least one of those issues, struggled with it. Okay. So what we're doing with the executives chair is we're making that accessible and available because it's an online peer-to-peer community that's subscription based. It's affordable. I mean, we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars to do this by any stretch of the imagination. And they can do it at their own pace, at their own availability, and within a safe environment. And we talk about that a lot. We want this environment to be safe and secure because we're serving them, not their, do we address the issues in the organization? Absolutely. We have to take a holistic view of the organization, but we do that working with and through the CEO, a member in our subscription community. Not going in and sitting down in a conference room, bringing in donuts and having 12 people sit around and argue for the first 3 hours. We don't do it that way.
That's the way we've always done it.
Next show.
That's right. That's
I want the donuts. No.
Yeah. Hold on, Max. And it's for what you do. And if people want to know more about it, they go to executiveschair.com. Yeah.
Yeah, without the there.
Right.
I mean, somebody wanted $40,000 for us to put the there, so we decided that that's probably not the best investment right now in our journey. Yeah. So they can get a hold of me at max@executiveschair.com.
Nice. Yeah, and it's well worth it. I mean, leadership is sorely missed, and to your point, I think we've got an aging. If the average age is 59, we've got an aging. And Bill, you've used statistics like there's how many million small businesses that started. Yeah. And if there's any success with any of them, now we got young people who don't understand the CEO role, perhaps, or.
Yeah, well, we've talked a lot about this on the show and many different aspects about, according to the current administration, 10 million new businesses have been started in about the past two plus years, or at least registered as an LLC, S Corp, sole prop, whatever they're doing. But these people are all ages and all kinds of backgrounds, right? Mm-hmm. But they're ill prepared.
Yes.
Let's put it kindly. They're ill prepared to fulfill what they believe they're going to accomplish. And the simple way to determine that, if you're one of those 10 million people, if you're listening in right now, if you do not have a written out business plan, you do not have a business.
That's right.
It's that simple. Mm-hmm. Because the odds of you succeeding without an executive business plan are slim. I mean, there's going to be those lucky ones out there. Yeah. But I've proven that to myself to be so incredibly important. Now,
Max, you've been a CEO a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. Eight times.
8, right? and has every CEO position played out the same with each business?
We're going to get in trouble again?
No. I was fortunate to be a guest on a internet TV show a month ago, and it's called Screw Ups. I'm being nice for the radio audience here. It's a little more graphic because it's an internet show. And they go, "What was your biggest screw up as a CEO?" And I said, well, it was, not just once, it was multiple times. And it's what we talked about a little earlier. My ego got in the way, and instead of listening to my gut to get, resonance between my gut, my heart, and my brain, I made a hiring decision, brought in a second command, when my that time spouse, who's obviously a lot smarter than I was, my senior leadership team, two members of my board all said, "Don't hire this guy." And I thought, "No, I'm the CEO. I know better. All right, I know this is he and I. This guy, we're connected. He's got my back. This is exactly what I need at the time." 6 months later, I was out of a job. He was the CEO.
Yeah.
It didn't even take a year. All right, so no, they didn't all end up the same way. I've done a couple of turnarounds for families where basically we got Junior turned around so he didn't ruin mom and dad's retirement, and to the point where one of them we actually dropped the debt service from 900,000 to 200,000 in less than 18 months. Brought in a CFO and got them, extraordinarily profitable. They're doing very well. Junior's back in as CEO there and doing well. So it was an in-person I was salaried at the time with there to get to turn that thing around. So I've done that and another one like that a couple of times. Done some a couple private equity ones where we got it positioned for new investors, and of course, every time a new investor comes in, a new CEO comes in. That's it's like baseball manager. You're hired to be fired.
So you're not acting like in the capacity that we see on the show Succession,
Right?
No.
which happens in families. But
I think the last I read is the average tenure of a CEO in the United States right now is about 5.7 years.
Right.
So it's
that's fine. That's my exit plan was 5 years.
There you go.
Well, when you're 59 years old, that's a nice exit plan. But if you're starting a new company, you obviously want to be there longer than that. You want to get it into a position where it truly is. It could be a generational.
Because my mindset is I don't want to manage a business. I want to build it.
Yeah.
And once it's built, I'll let somebody else manage it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've probably got something. You don't laugh. You're about ready to laugh pretty hard there, aren't you, man?
I'm gonna make sure you guys don't ever air this program right now, Bill. I'm just gonna next 30 seconds. You're just gonna cancel me out and cut the connection. We're having more technical difficulties. That's gonna be fascinating to watch you and Deb, the way you've got it structured, because you're growing so quickly. You've got such a unique business proposition that you've got there. And then you've got Deb, who I've spent time with, who has a tremendous background and tremendous grounding in business structure, business operations. So that when you guys get to the point where you really have to start working on the business, not in the business, making that transition and bringing in that support and infrastructure team is going to be fascinating to watch. All right, because that's when you're going to just scale the thing, globally on an exponential basis, or you're going to struggle, just like any organization does at that juncture in their journey.
And and Deb and I have had that conversation where we said, look, we know this isn't going to go smoothly all the time. We understand we're going to have concerns, issues, problems that are going to arise that we don't even see right now. We know there's outside influences that we don't see, but we do expect to arise. And we understand that, it's a matter of, as a problem arises, find the solutions, move on, get to the next problem. It's part of growth, right? You can't expect to be perfect. You can't expect to know everything. You can't expect to make every decision is the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going to happen to anybody.
Right.
Well, and it's tough too, right? In your circumstance, you've got two highly qualified. I mean, as a partnership, and which head of the snake do you listen to? And like here, I've got two business partners as well. And all very passionate, creative, but again, without really defining the roles, it then becomes a whole different
each
soup.
person has to stay in their lane, and that's hard to do, right? I'm sure, Max, you've experienced where people get out of their lane because they really need to know what's going on your side because they have to make decisions on their side and so on. But Deb and I were very clear about, our lanes and what part of the business that we were going to be working on and have control on. And it's part of the reason why I brought her in as a partner was she is fulfilling a role that I'm not good at. And instead of trying to study and become better at that, bring somebody in who's an expert. Bring somebody in who can keep you going, moving forward, instead of taking a step back, trying to develop an area of you that you're not good at. I noticed because you had on your boards, you said, work on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of those are my weaknesses. So bring in people who's stronger at it and let them do what they do best. And that's kind of how I work with Deb, and she and I we work very well together. Because she's got her aspect that she's working on diligently, very hard, and I have my side. And we converse all the time. What's going on? We inform each other what's going on. We're not hiding anything. We don't, it's just, we're trying to make something grow. And as long as we have that vision, and it's clear to us and our passion is clear to us that, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to accomplish. And we work towards that. We're more successful. We move more quickly.
Well, nobody's saying you're not.
No, I know, but I'm just kind of going through my mind and
Hey, Kent, is this where we tell Bill that Deb's been reaching out to both you and I saying, would you get this guy in line, please? Is this where we have that conversation? Is that where we are in the schedule of today's show? Because I know you told me that.
If I had low self-esteem, I'd start to believe you and start sweating and
But that's true, right? And that's why I bring it up, and I think that's why, Max.
Well, Max has a unique.
I'm not trying to pinpoint you and yours. I'm using yours. Mine is the same way. I mean, I've got two brilliant partners.
You do,
yes.
And when the roles aren't clearly defined, nothing gets done.
Mm-hmm.
Or the guy who can lift the most starts going, "Get out of my way."
I'm doing all the work, or you're all working on the same thing at the same time, and instead of different things that need to be worked on and dividing that up. But Max has a unique perspective because he and I have had a number of conversations. He knows the role I'm playing, and he's had many conversations with Deb and knows the role that she's playing. And it's with this conference.
Well, for much of my professional career, Max, I haven't had the opportunity to report directly to the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a person who's, mid-level management or down the ladder, again, yes, you are the manager in the dugout, and you get to call the shots. So there's always that pedestal piece for CEOs. So we cling on what you say, and we're looking for the attaboy, attagirl, but it's also much like the principal's office when you get called into the CEO's office. Most employees don't get excited like, woohoo, hey, the CEO, however, I recently had the opportunity to report directly to the CEO. And what I have found is, for most of my career, is I've always heard what you say, but now I get to see what you do. And what you do doesn't always match what you say.
Mm-hmm.
So how important is that for that executive's chair, that person on the other side of the desk, to have that match? Or does it always, or is it you're putting on a show for the people down the ladder?
Not in a small not in a small business. You can't do that. I mean, your actions are your story. It's and your story sticks. I mean,
it starts from the beginning, I think.
Yeah, it does. It's that one is.
For for me building this business out, I go to people who are going to do my branding, marketing, sales, web design, LMS system, and all that. And you find the best that you can find. And for me, the meetings I've had with these folks to bring them on is I'm bringing you on because you're some of the best that I've ever met. And I'm bringing you on to let you do what you do best. No micromanaging, just let them do their job. And I think the attitude, the mindset starts from there, where you don't always need an attaboy every day or every week or something. It's as much not interfering with what they have going on as it is just letting them do what they do best.
Kent, one of the reasons we've decided to focus on small and medium businesses is not that large corporations don't have the same issues when it comes to growth, leadership, accountability, senior, dealing with surrounding themselves with excellence. I mean, 63% of American employees right now, every level, are actively looking for a job. 63%.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason we focused on small and medium businesses is that we can actually have impact.
Love it.
What we are helping CEOs and those next generation leaders implement has impact, and has impact in a very, very quick, demonstrable, and measurable manner.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there is having that integrity, having that accountability, having that authenticity, which I know are almost all cliches now these days, but that's what you have to have in this role. And you have to demonstrate that in not only your messaging, because you are the chief evangelist for the organization as well.
Right.
I mean, you create a vision for it. You have to be able to communicate it and get the engagement for it. But then you got to actually be involved with it. One of the things I tell CEO clients is your new title is CGO. You are the chief growth officer of the organization.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just mean top line growth. It means individual contributor growth as well, too. We force our clients to do a 1 and 3 year personal growth plan for every employee in their organization. All right, Bill, you've been with us 2 years. You're a senior engineer, and you tell us you want to go into management. Okay, here's your 12-month plan for you, what you need to work on so you can be at the end of 12 months from now, next April, you're going to be a manager, of other engineers, probably junior engineers, but that's going to be your plan. Now, your financial impact of that, your salary is going to be in this range. These are the bonus opportunities for you. These are the things you need to really work on. You need to work on your communication skills, your team building skills, on and on. Then we do a 3-year plan as well, too. Now, if you decide you don't want to be in management, we structure a pathway for you to work in an operational role or in a functional role. That's great. We need those in the organization as well. You say you want to add to your family. Okay, there's probably going to be some time you're going to need off in year 2 because you're going to welcome a new addition to the family. Congratulations. We want to support that as well, too. Let's put that into your plan. That's how you engage. That's how you walk the walk and support the talk that you're so you're not just out there being a talking head that everybody's going, yeah, here goes Max again, just BSing his way through the day. No, it's putting that plan in place for your employees, and so that they see what they're helping to grow something bigger than themselves. That's how you get engagement, gentlemen.
Wow.
Well, see, now that would reduce a tremendous amount of stress on people who are constantly concerned about whether or not they're even going to have their job.
Absolutely. No question.
Now they have a purpose, they have a goal, they have hope.
Yeah.
I love
You know what it also forces, Bill? It forces executive management to truly schedule and forecast what their hiring and what their staffing needs are going to be. Those tens of thousands of employees that have been laid off on the West Coast right now in the tech industry, it's not their fault. That's senior leadership fault. And I will argue with Elon Musk and anybody else. Put me in a room with Bezos. I don't care. Those guys that's their responsibility.
Yeah.
Laying off those people because they forecasted and scheduled their staffing needs incorrectly. That's on them, not on the people they laid off. I'm sorry. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. It's far too common in corporate America for people to lose their jobs for no reason other than poor leadership, mismanagement, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's devastating, because it's hard enough as an individual to be fired. You feel like you're maybe a loser. You're not good enough. You can get depression, stress, and whatnot. And it's like, how do you go back out there and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get back in the game? It's difficult. But when it's not even your fault, do you really want to get up and do it again? When you could just have the rug pulled out from underneath you for no reason other than leadership said, oops, I made a mistake.
One thing I can say, gentlemen, and I'll pat myself on the back of this, is I've never laid off an employee in the 8 times I've been a CEO.
Wow.
I've restructured my compensation. I've restructured senior leadership compensation. I've battled my board to the point where I was at risk of losing my job, which I wouldn't have wanted to go home and communicate that message, but it was still the right thing to do. Did we reduce travel? Did we reduce, not necessary expenses to get us through the time? Yes, we did, but we never did a layoff. And I just refused to do that. Now, there are weeks when I didn't take a paycheck home. I didn't like taking that message home to the spouse at the time, but hey, it's the way it is. Okay.
Yeah, that's few and far between, man.
It is commendable. And there are things that can happen. I have a friend of mine who was a second generation business owner, and unfortunately it wasn't because of the way he ran the business, but because of the situation he was in. He had one major client, which is difficult. You can't rely on one major client at any given time. And that client pulled the rug out from under him and said, you know what, we don't need your widgets anymore. Mm-hmm. They came and said, we don't need about 75% of what you do for us anymore. We're moving on. And then 3 weeks later came back and said, you know what, we don't need the other 25% either. Yeah. So inside of a month, this guy finds out that a viable business supporting many, many families has no business anymore. Yes. And I commend this person, and I hope they're listening, because they'll know who they are. But, they did the best. That person did the best he could for his employees and helping make sure they had very good severance packages, very good opportunities to search for new jobs with support for resume writing, interviewing techniques, things of that nature. I mean, instead of thinking to himself, well, I'll just fold it up, take all the money and run.
Yeah.
There are good folks out there. You're part of that group. We had Steve Ramona here and the business with the servant's heart. I know you're in that mindset.
Well, he's one of the best. He's up front with the saints. I mean, his place in the heaven is assured. I mean, he gets to be up front.
He goes right to the front door.
I'm trying to sneak in through the choir loft upstairs when nobody sees me, after the second hymn. But, Ramona's the best. And I understand you're talking with another one of my favorites, Vic Freyloff, next week. So is that correct?
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Yes, he will be on next week as a follow-up to this kind of conversation, a little different perspective.
He'll blow me away. That won't be any contest at all. You'll really enjoy your conversation.
We had an amazing conversation the first time we met, and I think it was supposed to be for maybe a half hour, and like an hour and a half in, we're like, I apologize for taking up so much of his time. And he looked at me and he's like, are you kidding? He goes, you're the busy guy. And that again.
Yeah. So I want to go back to what you said, Max, a little bit ago, that the average length of CEO sitting, on the other side of the desk is, what you said, 5.25 or 5.5 years.
Yeah, again, depending. Yeah. Yes.
Ish. Does that mean the leadership style is only good for that, or does it mean that they're not effective CEOs and really the water started coming in the boat in year 2.5 and they held on for another, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of different reasons. The ones you mentioned are true. The other thing is believe it or not, everybody has this, not everybody, a lot of people have this TV version of how wonderful it is to be a CEO.
Yeah, right.
There are times, and from experience, it's a miserable freaking job. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. There are times, nobody likes to go in and do board presentations once every 3 months, which a bunch of clowns that flew in, the night before and went out drinking, and then they're sitting there going, why aren't you hitting this number? Nobody likes to go through all that. So it's a very stressful, challenging position. Are there benefits from it? Obviously I've done it 8 times. So I'm, either I'm an addict and I'm just an absolute idiot, or I do get something out of it. So yes, I mean, at the same time, it's wonderful, but and the other thing is if you're good, it's like anything else. Bigger companies are going to come along and poach you for bigger bucks. I mean, there's lots of ways to look at that, but we're focusing on the fact that so many of the people that are elevated to this position, this role, aren't prepared and don't have the resources. And, those facts are so compelling and they were mind-boggling to me when I really started doing the research. I thought for a while, guys, I was crazy that I was the only one dealing with this. Because the other thing is, CEOs don't join networking groups. They don't go hang out together and start telling war stories because they've got this image that, they're omnipotent and all powerful and can't show any weakness at all. And that's not the case. And when you talk about the dinosaurs, those dinosaurs who believe that and think that way are quickly on their way out.
Yeah.
And these next generations coming up are saying, look, this sucks. I don't like this. I'm not comfortable with this. I need some help.
Yeah, and I love that. And of course, to get that help, you can go to www.executiveschair.com, and Max and his team can help make that happen.
Yeah, and I know we're on the tail end here with a couple minutes left, Max, because I wanted to point out though, to get more in depth about this subject and to understand more about it. Max is speaking at our conference in May, our VC Latinx 2023 conference. We're so looking forward to listening to him. And not only is he speaking, but he is developing courses in order to help those of us who have the privilege of hearing him speak and learn more about it, get more in depth and get real, and get a real solid understanding, so that we can do things the right way. And I can't thank you enough for being a part of that, Max. It's going to be quite an event.
Yeah,
it truly is my pleasure, and I'm already feeling the pressure. So,
you pointed that out when I said, you were feeling the pressure about the show today, and I got a good laugh out of that. Thank you very much, because
hey, you play your cards right, Max, and maybe you'll be the 9-time CEO.
I tell you, this last one we started, I was like Michael Corleone. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. So.
Well, that's what I said. I said, when I first met you, you were 7-time CEO. And, a month later, you're now an 8-time CEO. And I said, okay. I get that. I mean,
have to give them a championship belt for each one.
Yeah.
Here, I'll tee it up.
Medal,
I'll tee it up for you next week. Ask Victor Freiloff how that actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay. He'll tell you the story, how it happened. It's a pretty funny story. So
we'll bring that up, because my guess is he might be a speaker for us in the future, as well as with you, because we have many plans going forward with this conference around the world.
You'd be a great one.
Continuing to educate the underprivileged, in different parts. But I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really appreciate it. Always enjoy conversations with you. And we're going to have some more, absolutely, for sure, because the good Lord knows I'm going to need some help.
You know how to reach me, guys.
He just hasn't
and
told me yet.
Yeah,
He hasn't told me where.
That's right.
No,
Hey,
no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we are right on the back end of this. We can't thank you enough for your time. We know you're busy, and thanks for carving out another day after the first experiment didn't work with us here. Again, visit executiveschair.com and work with Max and his team. It's amazing, and they can help you be a better leader, CEO. Absolutely great stuff. So, yeah. Tonight at 8:00, don't forget to tune back in here. Dream Home Experts is coming out with their first episode of season 5, remodeled studio, new group of guys. It's going to be really, really good. So come back in and enjoy that tonight at 8 p.m. Like, share, follow. And until then, be good, but more importantly, be good to one another.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. Thank you all for listening in as well.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good stuff.